everyone, welcome to GradMissions Office Hours. I'm Autumn,
Hi, everybody. I'm Lisanne.
and we are coming to you talking about the hard-headed students that we sometimes work with because
Mhm.
you are brilliant. You've been able to get to um, undergrad and some of you through undergrad. And as a Texas girl, I always like to say by pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. One thing that we have noticed is that sometimes that bootstrap pulling that's gotten you through doesn't quite cut it when you get to high stakes tests.
Right, exactly. And there's not anything to be embarrassed about. It happens. It happens. And when we have this conversation with students, they think they're the only ones that are going, through the anxiety but if you're able to do really well in school and then something happens when you're taking these high stakes tests, there's probably a disconnect there. It's not that you're not working hard enough. It's not that you're not studying, putting in the work. There's a disconnect.
Yes. And there's no shame in that disconnect. So a lot of times, Liza and I are both former educators, and one thing that we notice is that when there is an outlier, when you've put in the work
Yeah.
studying and you have a 3.8 GPA, but you're making, very, very low scores on these high stakes time tests, then that can be a signal to us that there may be, like Lysanne said, a disconnect. One of the questions that we ask a lot of times when we see that kind of disparate situation in stats is how were the SAT and ACT for you? That can
Yeah.
be kind of an indicator. Um, did you way outperform what your SAT or ACT indicated in undergrad? How do you outperformed it in high school? And it was sort of a surprise, even though you prepared for it. Does your diagnostic look drastically different from the actual test? That can be another indication. Lisanne and I are not doctors and we don't play them on TV, but we are people who've been in this industry for 13, 14 years. And
Yeah,
so we can see these patterns.
for sure. And it's conversations that we've had with students, and it's one of those things where we kind of ask, like, I'm not trying to offend you. I'm not saying you need, because it can come across as offensive to, like we said, these high achievers who have just been able to go in and work really hard and get the results that they need. And so it's sometimes, they're thinking, "Well, why are you asking me this?"
Right.
And because there is a stigma and there should not be. It's there shouldn't be a stigma about around something that's leveling the playing field for everyone. Um, and so these are conversations that we've had over the last decade, and we welcome that conversation with anyone who, even if you have just a thought in your mind, I'm just really struggling and I can't figure out why. It's things that we're happy to talk with students about.
Yes. So let's get down to the nuts and bolts of what this looks like. I want
Yeah.
to cover a couple of mythbustery kind of things first of all.
Right.
I have a very dear girlfriend who is the dean of students of a top 14 law school. They have recently hired a disability coordinator. This school is spending money at a top 14 whose median LSAT is high 170s. They have enough students at their school using accommodations that they have hired a whole position.
Yeah. So that tells you right there, yeah,
No stigma.
accommodations and aptitude are not
Yeah.
right.
They're not mutually exclusive. You can be brilliant and need accommodations. Here's another myth buster. Well, if the school sees that I took an accommodated test, then they're not going to want to admit me. Guess what? They don't see it. There's not a scarlet A for accommodated on your test score. All they see is the score, and unless you tell them that you took an accommodated test, they will not know. So you're safe. What do accommodations look like? Let me cover quickly kind of what that looks like on the MCAT, and then I'll let you cover, Lysanne, what it looks like on the LSAT. So for the MCAT, the process is in your AMCAS account, you will click a button that talks about accommodations and modifications, and you actually have to submit a personal statement specifically talking about why you're requesting accommodations, and then you also submit some documentation from your physician. We can help you navigate all of that, but if you're navigating that alone, you just talk to them about the physiological things that happen to you when you take a high stakes test. If you know you have a disability of some kind, definitely use that as your rationale. if you're just starting to think, I think I have anxiety, I think I have ADHD, whatever these things are, we're not saying that you have to take medicine, but get the documentation from your doctor that gives you the diagnosis. We'll upload that to your AMCAS account, fill out this personal statement, and then request the specific accommodations that will make the test more accessible to you. If you want to talk about what those are, book a 20-minute call with us, and I'm happy to go over with you what we've had success in requesting. But a lot of times that looks like taking it in a separate place, having extended time, being able to stand up and have stretch breaks, just some things to take the frenetic energy of that test day down
Yeah.
and make it more accessible to you. And that's what the med school, the MD, DO, MD, PhD, the MCAT route looks like accommodation wise.
Yeah. Yeah. And for the LSAT, it's similar. So, well, I just want to talk quickly about we've seen advertisements for book our service to help get accommodations, and it's like hundreds of dollars. First of
Thousands.
all, please, yeah, excuse me, starting at hundreds, yes, in
Yeah.
the thousands. Please don't do that. So for the LSAT, it's one of those things that's not really advertised, but really the documentation that is necessary is you can get a letter from your PCM, your primary care, and or your doctor, and you just submit that along with a request, and typically that's pretty much all that's required. Once again, we can talk with you through just the details of the actual request because you go on their website and it doesn't really tell you how to, I mean, it does, but we're
No, but it's really vague and it's kind of tricky
super
and
vague and you're like,
the
what do
choice
I?
separate from the like argumentative writing, all of that.
Yes, yes. And so once that's submitted, you'll hear back about whether you can have extended time, like on the MCAT. Also, um, they can let you use earplugs, like if, it's just the background noise is, causing anxiety or distraction, breaks, extra breaks in between the sections. I think there's a portion where you can walk around, stand up, that sort of thing. And also some people need food. Bring a snack or something where I know typically you have your little Ziploc baggie, it's clear, and you can have your car key and your ID, and that's all that you can have. And so some students, are able to have a fidget spinner, certain things like that that they can bring in their bag. And so it sounds really simple, but at the same time, when you go on LSAC's website, it's very confusing and vague because you're not exactly sure what to do. And so some people are turning to these programs. It's really not,
No.
it's not that involved to request.
That's right. And we could talk about that in the free 20-minute call and give you some other pointers too. So it is very individualized. And these are the kind of things that we were really embargoed from talking about with students whenever we worked for schools because it is such a tricky space, right? Like we aren't doctors, we can't tell you what exactly to do. But now that we are working on behalf of applicants, we're able to have many more candid conversations, and we have seen clients have a lot of success once we
Mhm.
level this playing field for them. Um, I would also like to talk a little bit about what accommodations look like when you get to law and med school. Not saying that just because you use accommodations on these qualifying exams that you have to have them, but I always recommend it's kind of like FAFSA, right? Fill it out in case you need the money later.
Exactly.
Let's have these tools in your toolkit on record so that if you need them, if you get halfway through MS1 or 1L year and feel like you're really at a disadvantage, like, wow, this is a lot more intense, it's a lot more dense information I'm having to get through. Here are the
Right.
tools that you can have. What let's talk about some of the tools that we've seen people use, Lizanne.
Yeah, so, well, kind of my first bit of advice is to go to your student services office. So, and this is just kind of general advice, but once again, I feel like a broken record. I say this on every podcast. You're not bothering anyone. They're there to help you. Student services is there to support you. They want you to succeed. And so go speak with someone in student services about if you have really crippling test anxiety. They want to help you succeed. That they want you at their school, they want you to be there and to do well. And so go speak with them about, the accommodations that you're seeking. And like Autumn said, a lot of these schools are becoming the wiser and saying, hey, this is actually an office that we need to have so that our students can do their best. And so go speak with someone about your concerns, about your worries, and then they can help you come up with a plan. Some folks in that law school exam, that's your only grade for the entire semester, sitting in a room with 70 other students, click-clacking on their computers is too overwhelming. And so there are some students who can take an exam in a separate space. Once again, if you require extra time, nothing to feel ashamed about. That is something that they can help you with. And those accommodations can follow you through your school school time, all of your exams, through your career. That's what I was trying to say, your school career, and then also onto the bar exam. And so just going and having a transparent conversation, please don't be embarrassed. Don't feel like you're the only one. You're not, and things like that. Just having that open conversation that hopefully started when you were in the admissions process, getting to know the student services office and the staff that truly do care about you and your success. And that can carry you through your entire school career and even on the bar examination.
That's exactly right. And it's similar in med school. You can use those accommodations on the USMLE, and then beyond in future things. And so it's important to know that you are your own advocate, right? No one at the school is going to follow you around and be like, "Are you using your accommodations?" Like, you're
Right.
the adult now. Your mom's not going to do this for you. You have
Yeah.
to do it for yourself. And you can also have these accommodations throughout the school year. So, getting lecture notes ahead of time, having access to recordings of the lectures. There are little things that you can have along the way to make this more accessible to you. And I think you will be surprised when you get to med and law school at the number of people who are utilizing these. And the people who are utilizing them are the people who have already learned to be their best advocate.
Yes.
And so, think about what has helped you be successful in the past and know that you're going to have to do that even more in med and law school. And so by having these conversations strategically at the right time, when is the right time? It's not
Mhm.
during the admissions process.
No, right.
I really recommend that you don't discuss this until after you've paid your seat deposit, your scholarship's properly negotiated, you're ready to go,
Mhm.
withdrawn your other offer or your other applications.
Mhm.
That's the time to email Student Services, the Disability Resource Center. And if you're nervous about that and you're a GradMissions client, guess what? Lisanne or I can join you on those
Absolutely.
meetings via Zoom, and we do it. I was on a call with a med school just yesterday, talking
Yeah.
about a client who is navigating. He's admitted, like getting ready to get started here in the fall, and he wanted to make sure that he had all of his things lined up. So I hopped on a Zoom with him, the Disability Resource Center. I was able to They told us what they typically do. I was able to actually mention a couple of additional accommodations that we've used at other med schools, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, yes, that's a great idea. We can absolutely do that." And so here we are sitting in April, and he already has this whole toolkit of things to help make sure that his MS 1 year is completely accessible to him.
Yes. And I that's one thing that we are very passionate about because a lot of times, the our clients have been able to just work harder, work harder, work harder. And when they get to 1L or MS1, they're still working very hard, but it's kind of, they're working harder, not smarter. And so
Yeah.
it's, I don't know, just sitting down with a client and saying, hey, I know you've made it this far, and I'm not saying you're not going to still succeed, but let's have a conversation about this so that you aren't working harder towards your anxiety or towards, the things that you're worried about when you can really be just help us take that off of your plate so that you're able to fully focus on the curriculum and on doing well on your exams and then, all of your schoolwork. And so I don't know, speaking for myself, one of a student who you just kind of put your nose down and do the work and pull yourself up by the bootstraps, like you were saying, it's hard to advocate for yourself because it's a feeling of isolation maybe sometimes. And so if we can get with a client and help them learn to advocate for them while they're learning to advocate for themselves, it's something that we really love to do.
Right. And if you, first of all, you are worth advocating for, but if you are
Absolutely.
having a hard time seeing that, think
Mhm.
about the clients and the patients that you're going to serve in the future. They
Mhm.
need you. They
Mhm.
need you in the legal profession. They need you in the medical profession. And if you are so beat down, bogged down, or like can't hit the right mark on the LSAT or the MCAT to even be considered, you are leaving a great wide
Yeah.
gap in care. in service, and we want you to be successful. If your dream is to be in law school or to be in med school, if your dream is to be a doctor or to be a lawyer, we want to help you get there. So listen to the things that we're saying. I'm like putting you in a headlock here. It's so tricky, and the
We
people,
understand it's difficult. It's
it is
hard because
so difficult. Yes.
everyone's out there saying, well, I'm fine. I got it all figured out. No one has it all figured out. But it just adds more pressure that's unnecessary because it's putting that roadblock in the way of you getting to your dreams.
That's right. And there's a great, there are a lot less people who are being diagnosed with things for which you need to use accommodations
Mhm.
because there was a couple of years there because of COVID where the time in middle school, in high school, in early undergrad, when people are typically identifying these things, you were virtual and we were
Mhm.
all just trying to survive. And so we saw the accommodation numbers really dip. And so all these people that are flapping around about, look at all these accommodations, it's like, yeah, there's going to be a backlog because there was a couple of years there where nobody was being identified or diagnosed. And now you're having to do that diagnosing and like identifying on your own, and there's just more education around it. Um, we should all be working toward a more equitable space for learning. And if you put in the work, then we want to make sure that you have a fair shake.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all about the fair shake. That's what it's not this, you know, it's not a, I don't know. People are like, oh, well, that's just gonna make it easier for them. No.
No, no, nothing about the MCAT, the LSAT, law school, or med
No.
is easy. No matter how, like, if you don't do the work, no matter how much extra time you get, you're not going to be able to improve your score. And so when we have a client who jumps 20 points on the LSAT after getting accommodations, it's not that they cheated the system, it's that they
Oh,
finally had a level playing field.
exactly.
Yeah. And we're passionate about this. I have a kiddo with a disability and he's 12 and I'm teaching him how to advocate for himself. He's also gifted. So he's what we call 2E, twice exceptional, which I'm guessing a lot of you people are as well. So it's a gift. It is. And you have to be able to know how to channel it. And um that's part of our why, right? Is that we see you and we believe you and we want to help you tell your story in every way. And talking about these accommodations is a part of that story for a lot of you. And it may even be a part of the application if we need to talk about your GPA, right? Maybe you didn't know you had this and now you have, you didn't know you had ADHD when you started college, but boy, there's an upward trajectory once you figured out some tools that you could use to do better. We want to help you tell that story too. And there's a way to couch it where it doesn't show your hand that you're going to need accommodations in law or med school. So there's a lot of really nuanced things to talk about around accommodations. And the best path forward is a free 20-minute call with GradMissions.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we are coming to time here. I'm about to turn off the lights in the office hours. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, and we're always on socials. So comment on our posts, DM us, let us know what you'd like to hear from us on future podcast or book that 20-minute call.
Okay. Bye.